Howdy, all you friends and family and reptilians and whatever you may be out there. Welcome to Marvelous Movie Mondays with Kelsey and Dill. As you can tell by my vest and Kelsey's blanket, we are very cold here in New York City. It's been a cold weekend, and I don't know, maybe some cold takes coming today, maybe not some hot takes. I mean, I think everyone is kind of like an Echo or liked Echo. Again, we are doing these episodes weekly. We're watching them weekly. We haven't watched the whole series, so this is going to make ourselves feel a little dated because there are people who've already finished the series who are listening to us predict things that are going to happen 3 episodes from now, and people are going to look at us and laugh at us and make fun of us. Um, Kelsey, how are you?
Like you said, Dill, I'm rather cold.
Hmm.
Yesterday it was about 19 to 20 degrees all day. I know if someone from the Midwest is listening, they're like, that's warm. Because I've just been seeing all these videos of it being like people saying, well, the temperature is -4, but because of the wind chill, it feels like -40. And I'm like, that's insane because I was walking home to my apartment last night and I was absolutely chilled to my bone. Like I
Hmm.
came home, I immediately took a hot shower and had a cup of tea because I felt like I would never be warm ever again. It was awful. But other than that, I'm pretty good. I've been letterboxing like crazy. If
Hmm.
you've been following along,
Yes, I meant to
I'm
put our letterboxes down there. I will do it for the next time we podcast together, Kels. I promise. Um,
all good. No worries.
let's do our new season, new segment of the week. What is the best thing you watched this week, Kels?
Oh, right. Um,
It doesn't have to be a new
well,
thing necessarily.
well, um,
Sorry to put you on the spot.
no, it's okay. Like what did I watch this week? Well, I saw Mean Girls on Wednesday, and I'm not going to say that's the best thing that I watched this week, but that was a
God hope
new
it wouldn't
thing that
be.
I watched this week. And honestly, something that I watched last week, technically, because obviously this week, Monday, this week that we're in has not happened yet, but last week, I got into the show Too Hot to Handle, which I know I'm like 3 years late on, but
Hmm.
I ate that shit up. I
Season
gobbled it
one.
up. Yeah, season 1, it was very
Hmm.
entertaining.
That's Francesca and
Um,
Harry, right?
yes, Francesca and Harry
And
season,
my girl Chloe.
and
Chloe's my favorite reality TV personality like ever. So yeah, Chloe,
wait,
if you're
that's
listening, I want to
crazy.
marry you. Yeah, no, Chloe is like my favorite person ever. Kelsey's probably inside just be like, Chloe sucks or something like that. Like your
No,
face
I
makes
just
me think that.
she was funny because she was quite she doesn't, not the brightest bulb in the bunch, one might
So
say.
it's
My
charming.
favorite from the group was David. He was like the
Zach
British
can't remember
guy.
who David is. It's been a while. I mean, there's a lot of seasons I can't really necessarily remember,
Yeah,
and
they're on like season 5 now.
I don't
I'm
remember
like
the
way
guys as much.
behind on
Yeah.
this.
Season
But
2 is pretty good. Season 3 I think is really good too. I can't remember. I watched the first 3 seasons. I haven't caught up since. But that's great. Yeah, I'm glad you're into it. I like that show. I think it's exactly as goofy as it needs to be while also having something
yeah,
interesting to say. Like it is very interesting to say. Like when you actually
right.
are actually connecting with someone without the sex involved, how it is. Yeah,
And
so
like
if you if
honestly,
yeah.
I don't think that these people are necessarily like good actors. So when they have really genuine moments, I have no choice but to believe that what they're saying is like honest to God true.
Mm,
Like when they say, like, you know what, I've been getting this process and I feel like it's made me a better person. I'm like, okay, maybe I'm just an idiot, but like I'm
mm,
like, you know what, maybe they have been changed for the better by this ridiculous
mm,
Netflix show, who knows.
yeah. Huh,
What's the
who
best
knows?
thing you watched, Dill?
So I've been watching a lot for Picture This week. We're doing silent films. We're doing the first ever Oscar ceremony in 1927.
Mm.
So, in case Chad is listening to this, I won't say what my favorite thing I watched of that slate was, even though I watched a film and was like, that is a masterpiece. But I'll talk about something else I watched this week. I watched a film on Netflix. It is probably going to be nominated for Best International Film. It's called Society of the Snow, and it is the most harrowing, frightening, like most unsettling thing I've seen in a long time. And the thing is, it's a film based on a true story. It's about the Andes mountain crash of that rugby team in Chile, I think it was. And I just hadn't known the real story. And like, apparently everyone's like, "Oh yeah, you didn't know that?" And I'm like, "No." And I think it's one of those movies where if you don't know it, it's like It's a lot. Like, you
Yeah.
have to kind of know the history behind it to know where it goes, because it goes in some pretty morbid directions that I think if you know the news story, if you were like a kid growing up at the time, you're probably like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's the Chilean team that ate each other because they needed to survive. Or you're like me and Kelsey apparently, who just found that out and are like, oh, what
Yeah.
is this movie? But I think it's really well made. It is harrowing, and it does lead to somewhere positive because it is like a survival film. Like, it's their typical Castaway type formula where you because it's a true story, you figure they're gonna get saved at some point, or a majority,
Yeah.
minority of them are gonna get saved. But it's just really interesting to see it play out. It was very harrowing, very tough to watch. I don't think I'll ever watch it again because of the graphic stuff, and just
Mm.
frostbite and the way they're not eating and losing weight, and like they're peeing and the pee is black. Like, it's very unsettling. But
Ugh.
it makes you realize
It's
that,
scripted?
yeah, so it's
Like, it's
it's
not a documentary?
no, no, no. So this happened in like I want to say, yeah, 1972. The plane crashed in the mountains, and it's like these guys stranded in the mountains. It's directed by Jay Bayona, who did one of the Jurassic World movies, and he did a Monster Calls. This is like his best film, I think, to date. It's on Netflix, and it's Spain's, because in the Oscars, every country like gets to submit a film for best international film, and this is what Spain submitted. So I think it's going to get chosen as one of the 5 nominees, which will be cool. And the next time we talk, we'll know the Oscar nominees, which will be fun. So we can talk about that. But that was the best thing I watched that wasn't one of the silent films for Picture This. That was the best like,
Nice.
new thing I watched. Yeah,
I
I
changed my
recommend.
answer, Dill.
Oh, okay,
I remembered something that I watched last week that I really, really enjoyed and that
okay.
I really, really wanted to get around to watching. Rye Lane on Hulu.
Yes, I love Riley.
Yes, that was the best thing I watched last week.
Nice. Yeah,
Um,
very underrated, kinda
yeah.
went under the radar, but, like, yeah, I'm looking at my
Mhm.
list. I saw, not to brag, humble brag, 104 new movies in 2023, and it was my number 16. Like, it's up in the top, like, quarter of the
Wow.
list, which is awesome. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it was a very cool movie, a really cute, romantic comedy, and it's just, like, done really, really cool and in a really interesting way, a very colorful, aesthetically pleasing film, so I
Yeah,
definitely would recommend that one. Oh,
cool.
I gotta log it on my letterbox.
No,
I
you did.
forgot.
I just saw it.
I did?
I'm looking now.
Okay.
Because I'm looking at what you watched this week to help. If you had forgotten. But yeah, Ryan Lane, Mean
Yeah.
Girls, Anyone But You. Mean Girls. I was not fair, but I gave it a pretty. I'll say right this. I'm not a mean person. At least I hope I'm not. And I'm not trying to like ever diss on someone's art, because I am an artist and I am also an actor and I want to obviously get projects and all that stuff. But like, also as a
Mhm.
musical theater fan and as someone who like wants to see the medium progress, you have to call it when you see it. And I wrote a pretty scathing review on Letterboxd. So if you all want to know my thoughts, read my Letterboxd review. It's pretty scathing. But it's all from a
Okay.
place of passion and wanting it to be better. It's more frustration than it is this fucking sucked. It's more of like, I just wanted it to be so much better because it had the potential
Yeah.
and it just dropped the ball. But we don't need to be spending
Yeah.
too much time on Mean Girls, but unless you want to. But
No, I mean, I thought it was fine.
mm, okay. Um,
Should
No,
we
it's
get into this
every
episode?
yeah, we'll get into this episode. It's just like every time I
Okay.
talk with one of my women, one of the women in my life, I'm just
Yeah.
like, who are also musical theater. I'm like, you would be such a better Katie. I said this to you. I said this to my friend Rachel. I said this to so many people I talk to. I'm like, all of you
Yeah.
would be a better Katie. And I love Angourie Rice, but like, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm protective of her just because she is an MCU girly. She is our Betty Brant, so she holds a special place in my heart, obviously.
Hmm.
So I didn't like how people were just like really, really coming at her because I thought that her acting was fine.
Her
I
acting
thought
is
that
fine, especially in the beginning parts when she's playing sweet and innocent. The problem is I don't think she's convincing as a mean girl when she becomes a mean girl. And I think
right,
maybe it's the way they edited her audio, but like her voice mix with the rest of the band and the other actors just was very lacking.
yeah,
But it could have been a mix issue, not her.
no,
That's why I'm
yeah,
not gonna necessarily single her out. But every time I talk
right,
to one of my friends who are like, like my women friends, I'm like, yeah, like this is, you'd be so much better. You, my sister, my other sister Nina, like my friends with Lori and Rachel. I'm like, you guys would all be like such good Katie's in comparison. But that's not to diss Angourie Rice. I love Angourie
Yeah.
Rice, but still. All right, let's get into Echo though. Enough time on Mean Girls. We talked 10 minutes already. That's gonna be like a new thing, people. We're gonna be like kind of just debriefing on the week because this is our only really like weekly show that we do every single week. So it's kind of like just something nice to check in. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
and
year
Kelsey and
3. We're shaking things up
yeah,
here
Kelsey and I
on
don't get
Marvelous
to
Movie
talk
Mondays.
don't get to talk about movies much elsewhere either. Like we usually see the movies we see together are Marvel movies, so it's like we don't get to really
Right.
like like how was Mean Girl? Like we don't get that. So just good time. So let the friends catch up. And now 10 minutes in, you can hear about the show you actually came to see, which is Echoes episode 2. Which Kels, I'll just say it's fine. It's
It
fine.
was fine.
It's fine.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
this is one of those like, oh, okay, so this is not like the big setup episode of episode 1, like, oh, this is what the series is gonna be. This isn't necessarily the climax, it's not the finale, so it's just kind of like it's the lettuce. No, I don't even want to say that because I love lettuce on a sub. It's like the
Mm.
it's like
The
it's
oil
like
and vinegar?
no, because I love oil and vinegar too. Like
Ooh.
oil and vinegar and lettuce are like that's what gives it the best like
Yeah.
pizzazz. It's like the hmm.
I don't like tomato though.
I it's like the tomato. Like if there's no
Okay.
tomato on the sandwich, it's fine. It helps.
Right.
It's not bad. I like tomato, but yeah, it's like not the bread. It's not the meat. It's not the cheese. It's not the lettuce, oil, and vinegar. It's the tomato. It's very much
Yeah.
fine, but it's just in there.
So let's break down episode 2, low walk, talk about things that we liked, things that we didn't
Mm,
think were as strong. So we start this episode off in 1200 AD in Alabama, where we
yeah.
kind of see some Native American tribes, possibly more than one. They're partaking in a sport that reminded me a lot of lacrosse. It
Mm,
handles, it deals with like all the players having a stick and it's able to scoop up this ball and everyone's fighting for the ball and trying to get it into their respective goals. And we see this red team and this blue team. The red team, the main player that we see is a woman, and she's kind of dominating on the field. She's one of the strongest players for sure.
that is low
And
walk, right? That's who that is.
yeah, I
Okay.
believe so.
Yeah.
And so the blue team is losing pretty badly. So they bring in reinforcements. They have this kind of secret ringer that they bring in, who's this big, tough guy who's kind of just getting through with brute force. He starts racking up some points for them. But then Lowalk gets angry enough and just wants it badly enough that she's able to kind of access and connect to the power of Chafa, um, the main woman of the Choctaw tribe that we met in last episode. Her hands start glowing with the circular, uh, shape on her hands, and she's able to win the game for the red team. And so this was also one of the women that we kind of see that is connecting with Echo in the last episode, where all these women kind of have like an
Mm,
interesting design on around their mouths, which is interesting because Echo doesn't talk. So I wonder if that's significant. Anyway,
yes.
so now we're yes.
Just really quickly about this opening. I
Yeah.
like how each episode is kind of like opening with a story of another like ancestral person, and then they're
Yeah.
showing kind of foreshadowing what's going to happen in the episode, right? Because like this very much symbolizes kind of the journey she Echo goes on later with the train and her leg and stuff like that, and like I like that. I'm only a little worried that like every episode now it's like when we see that opening where because every episode is named after a different like Native American person, and I'm wondering if like every episode's gonna open with like one of these little sequences. I just hope
Mhm.
it doesn't give away what every episode is gonna be necessarily, like what
Mm.
the big like overcoming thing is gonna be. Because this episode was very much foreshadowing what would happen later. Though I do think it's a cool device. Like I like how it's kind of
Yeah.
connecting the ancestor and the story, the myths and stuff with the actual present day. I like that a lot. And we saw that with the last episode too. Like I like how it's kind of mirroring each episode, which I like. It gives it an extra little like oomph that also makes it feel like a series because we've talked about how a lot of these feel like movies split up, and I think the main
Yeah.
narrative feels like a movie split up, but because you start every episode with this kind of like back flashback kind of tie-in, it makes it feel a little bit more episodic because it's like this is the person we're focusing on this episode, and this is how this god or this ancestor is going to help Echo. And I like that
Yeah.
because it does make it feel more episodic in that way. And I thought that was the more intriguing element because the whole episode as a whole I was like very mid on, but like I think that actual device and that framing device is very smart when trying to make a series, especially one that's only 5 episodes long that could have just probably been a movie. I like how
Mhm.
they're adding that as a way to kind of break it up and make it feel like each chapter is a chapter, which I really
Yeah.
appreciate. Yeah.
Yeah, Dill, that's such a great point. Yeah, you basically said what I made note of right underneath here is that I didn't look on to the other episodes because like we
Right,
said,
I
we're
haven't either,
doing
so
this
we could be wrong. Like
episodically.
episode 3, they could just stop doing it, and I'll be like, "Oh shit."
Yeah. Right, but the way that the pattern has been going these last 2 episodes, that the first episode was called Chafa, this one was called Lohawk. I'm assuming that the next 3 are also going to be,
I
or
saw
maybe
the
the next.
names. I saw the names of them, and they are like different names as well. So I think
Okay.
that's gonna be consistent. I just don't know if they have
Yeah.
permanent for like the flashbacks.
Right, right, right. So to me, it almost feels like we're kind of getting introduced to these different women in history that are
Mhm.
going to be like, serving Echo by the end of this, if she unlocks this power that we see that she kind of comes into
Absolutely.
contact with in this episode.
Mhm.
So then we're back in present day. We get the beautiful intro, our title sequence, which I thought was like really, really cool.
Yeah, it's good.
I noticed that even when they show Kingpin's face, that the eye that is now has been
Patched.
shot is kind
Yeah.
of like it's like faded out almost. You only see like the one half of his face. So I was like, "Oh, is that foreshadowing like what this like version of
Surprise! It's
Kingpin that we're going to be
Batman now,
getting?"
and he's Two Face. Imagine if the Joker's just comes in the next episode. You're like,
Oh my god. I'd be so confused.
I'd be
I'd have
happy.
to watch all the DC movies.
I
Anyway,
think we should do it anyway. I mean, the DCEU just ended, so like it's over. We could just watch it.
it's over? Like no more ever?
Well, no, the DCEU is done, and now James Gunn is starting his own universe. So, like,
Yeah.
it'd be like if Kevin Feige ended the MCU and then someone took over a different one and started fresh with like Iron Man. That's what they're doing with the DCEU. Aquaman was the last
Oh,
one. Then the last Aquaman was like the last one. So, like, that's done.
okay.
We could just watch them all and be like, "That's a
Hmm.
DCEU." It's only like 20
Alright.
movies. So, maybe someday. Maybe not.
Alright. Maybe.
Hopefully
Maybe.
not.
We'll
Now,
see.
now that I'm talking about it, I'm like, I don't really want to do that.
So, we see that Biscuit, Maya's cousin, has been helping her run errands. He shows up to the house with a box of things that she needs, and she's like, "Hey, I need a couple more things, like going to town for me." And so he goes to their grandpa's store where he kind of just sells like a bunch of knickknacks, like obviously like things that the community has made in different art pieces and things like that, but also just like really practical things like tools and
Mm,
different things like that. He seems like kind of like a little inventor, which is cool. Like I really liked the scene, later on in the episode where he's like remaking Maya's prosthetic leg.
yeah.
Uh and so we get this really interesting scene that features two white people, this white couple in this store, and they're looking for something to buy. They're looking for, I think they said like a Navajo rug or something. And grandpa's trying to sell them on this vase. He's telling them it'll be able to connect them with their spirit animal, something along those lines. And he starts this like chant that's like kind of like subtle, like if you really weren't paying attention you'd miss it, but he's like chanting with just like buy the damn thing, buy the damn thing, but he's saying it kind of like softly and quickly that you'd think that if you were a lesser knowing person, like I'm sure this white couple is, they think he's just doing some sort of Native American chant, but he's just yeah, he's just saying to them buy the damn thing, buy the damn thing. I thought it was
That's
very
funny.
funny. I really
Yeah.
I really like this character a lot.
Mhm.
um and so Biscuit helps him out. He's like, you can go to Anthropology and get all the Navajo rugs you want, but all of those rugs come from Madripoor. And so we got a little Madripoor drop. Obviously, we know that from being the city in the Falcon and the Winter
Falcon and Winter
Soldier
Soldier.
where the
Power broker.
power broker
Mhm.
worked. Um, and he says, but everything here is genuine. Like they're from Native American artists, and you should buy them here. And so he kind of helps his grandpa make a sale. and he buys like the rest of the equipment for Maya, one of them being like a really teeny tiny camera that she needs.
Mhm.
Uh, so then we cut to a scene with Chula, their grandmother, who's planning some kind of festival, something with like different booths, and like there's like a main stage, kind of like circle area for everyone to gather around. I'm sure we'll see it in later episodes, but
Mhm.
basically in this scene, she finds out that Maya's back in town, and so she really wants to make sure that she, first of all, she's not happy that she's back in town, and she really wants to make sure that Bonnie, her daughter, doesn't find out that, or her granddaughter doesn't find out that she's Maya's back in town.
Mhm.
Um, so then Maya convinces Biscuit to take her on a secret mission. She's like, they pull up to like an overpass. She sets up a tracking device on his phone and is like, track this, follow me. And I'm not gonna, and gives him really no further information. But Biscuit's just, he's a ride or die cousin, so he's down to help her out with this
Mhm.
little side hustle she's got going on. And so we get this really cool train sequence of her kind of jumping onto a train. She's like jumping between the train cars. She puts herself, she's then hangs underneath one of the train cars and like kind of lasers her way into the train car. And we kind of see her lift up this box. We don't see what she does with the box, but we assume that maybe she took something. Um, and then she escapes out of the train car. While she is escaping, though, she does trip and get caught between two of the platforms. Her prosthetic leg gets stuck in
Mm.
the like grating. I don't know what else to call it. That's holding the two train cars together, and this is when she's able to kind of unlock this like unworldly power that she has in order to like pull herself free, which we saw in episode 1, and then also earlier on in the episode with Lohawk's
Right.
character.
There's that
um
foreshadowing, yeah.
yeah. And so uh and then we have to see this, she's trying to jump from the train back onto Biscuit's truck right before the train goes into a tunnel. And I thought that this was really cool, Dill. I
Yeah.
thought that it was definitely a cool, entertaining sequence. I just didn't think it looked super great.
Yeah, I mean, I've had this common. I mean, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse at this point, right? That's
Yeah.
the phrase. It's too dark, it's too gray. Like, it just
Yeah.
brighten it up a bit. Like, that's just my one complaint. I thought it was fine. I think the actual like action of it like that's thing. It's fine, but like I've seen a train
Yeah.
sequence like this in a lot of other movies. Like, we just saw it in Indiana
Right.
Jones. Like, it's something I've seen before, and that's the thing where it's like
Right.
it doesn't feel like it's setting itself apart the way some action in the MCU, like in like Shang-Chi, for example, does. So, yeah,
Mhm.
I just thought it was mid. Like, it was fine. Like, I don't think any of
Yeah.
it was bad, but it's like this isn't the action that like when everyone was like, yeah, this is like a darker, grittier show. We talked about this last week. I'm like, I'm not getting that
Mhm.
yet, and this still
Mhm.
is not that. I'm like, all right, yeah, it's a slightly more PG-13 action
Yeah.
show. You know,
And just like,
it's not R.
yeah, and just like visual effects wise, like it was kind of reminding me of like the graphics that we had back in 2011 with Captain America the First Avenger, like, and that whole train sequence where they, lose Bucky.
Right.
It was very like I don't know, it was just kind of like very
Obvious
obviously
green
like
screen. Yeah.
green screen,
Hmm.
and it just looked, not. And there's past product projects like what you're saying, Dill, with this is a scene being we've seen before. There's a train sequence in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, or maybe it's on a train, maybe they're on trucks. But like I
Yeah.
remember even that like looking pretty decent
It
and
was
like
also shot in
believable.
the
But
daylight, yeah, like, and I think
yes.
that's the thing is they think, "Oh, if we set it and make it really dark, then we're not gonna be able to
No
the
one will be able
flaws
to
are not gonna."
tell.
Yeah, it's like if, "Oh, if
Yeah.
the light's out, you won't see that, this is this." Like, that's
Hmm.
just an obvious, that's a given, but I feel like
Right.
every time it does get really dark in the MCU, I'm like, "Ah, they're hiding something," you know?
Yeah.
It's like the end of Spider-Man: No Way Home, it's like the end of Shang-Chi with, like, the dragons and shit. I think those movies at the end there, when it gets dark, they look atrocious. And I think it's because
Hmm.
they don't have the time to finish the visual effects. So they say, "Ah, let's just dim everything and no one will notice." But guess what? We watch a lot of these things and we notice
Yeah.
because there's also examples of good ones. So when we see the good ones, we can definitely tell when the
Yeah.
bad ones are happening. So,
Yeah.
yeah, no, I was not a fan of this. I mean, and that's one thing I'll give Barbie a lot credit for is like Barbie's so bright and colorful, you can see every single ounce of that production design, and that's going to win an Oscar for production design. Like that's the thing. It's like poor things as well. Like if you make a movie that's so bright and colorful to where you can't, you're putting everything on display, that shows pride and that shows confidence. When you're masking everything in darkness, it shows that you have something to hide. My opinion.
Yeah. No, you're so right. I agree 100%. So she's able to get into the truck right at the last second, and Biscuit says, whatever you took, it better have been worth it. And she's like, I didn't take anything. And we're like, okay, Echo. Don't know if I believe you, but we'll see.
Mm,
Um, and so and so we cut to a scene of the shipping yard where the train was being sent to.
delivering. Yeah.
Yes, and the n- label of the freight car that Echo had tampered with was D9X, and this gets repeated a few times in this episode. Why you cocking your head, Dill?
Because
You
you're
know
the numbers
something I
girl. I
don't.
want to know. I want to know what you
Well,
found out.
I looked into it, but
Okay.
nothing came up. It was
Okay.
only stuff about the episode. It wasn't
Hmm.
it wasn't an Easter egg for
Gotcha.
something else. I think that this might be specific to this show and that we're
Okay.
gonna find out the true meaning of D9X, or I'm completely wrong. Like I didn't find
I don't know.
anything in my
All right.
research.
Cool. Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I could Google it right now, but if you didn't find anything, I don't think I will. But
okay, well, you let me know if I miss anything. I would love to know. Um, and so
do
we
we?
kind of see.
Sorry. Do we know what her main goal is? It just to like get one up on Kingpin again? Like, why is she doing this?
Well, I thought from what I was getting from episode 1 was that she kind of wanted to dismantle, Kingpin's kind of whole black market not vigilante, that's the wrong word. Like, you know, criminal
Right.
syndicate, you know what I mean? Like she wants to basically like this is what I thought at from based off of what she said, her character said in episode 1. She said like, "Oh, Kingpin's been ruling for so long now. I think it's time for like a queen." So I think she kind of wants to dismantle this whole like Kingpin's whole operation and like possibly like shut it down because she doesn't want any more people to get killed and obviously like everyone's like criminals are bad. Get rid of the criminals. And like that's what they all are. But
Mm,
based off of this episode, she was just like, "Well, they hit me, so I hit back."
okay.
And I'm like,
Gotcha.
"So
Yeah. So
so
there's
what
really no.
happened?"
Yeah. That's the thing. Is like it
Yeah,
just feels a little unmotivated. It really feels like.
inconsistent.
Yeah, it really feels like we're not gonna make a movie because it's not gonna sell good in the box office. So we'll put it on Disney Plus. But we only have like 3 episodes worth of material. Why don't we just like add a little chuffa? Like that's kind of what it feels like.
Mm,
It really does feel like we need at least 5 episodes because this isn't even like a full 6 or 7. This is 5 episodes. That's very
yeah,
low. That makes
yeah.
me them that definitely confirms my thoughts then because I thought this was a little extra and I'm like, why are we even going on this big train mission? She's just trying to blow up this thing and I don't know. Which again,
Well,
it could have some significance later, but it's like I don't know.
yeah, so as we know,
I just looked it up.
she
There's no significance, by the way. You're right.
okay, cool, thanks. So as we know from this scene in the shipping facility, they unload the freight car D9X and they open up the box that we saw Echo open, and she didn't take anything. She actually put something there and it was a bomb and it explodes the entire facility. Um and so then we see the scene where she goes to her grandfather to ask her to, okay, what? To build her a new prosthetic leg. And so we get this kind of like makeshift DIY kind of looking prosthetic, which I thought like looked pretty cool. But he said, this one's temporary. It's gonna take me a little bit to get to the new one. So I really want there to be like something really cool for her at the end of this uh
Mm,
at the end of this show, like she gets like a really cool, like upgraded prosthetic leg. I think that
mm.
that would be really, really cool.
What do you think they did with
Um,
the old one?
threw it away.
See, I think
Like the one
they
that's
yeah, like the one that's broken and shit. I think they called Rocket right away, and they're like, "How much you want for this?" And I think
oh
he
my
goes,
god.
I'll give you 400." I think
That's
that's
good,
exactly what
Dale.
they
That's
did.
good.
I think that's what they did because I mean, why would you not?
Yeah. Yeah, they could make a pretty penny if
They
they
probably
just
asked
sold it to
Bucky. They're like, "What
Rocket.
do you do with your arms?" He's like, "Well, I have a guy.
Well, I got an
He's
arm
actually not
guy,
a guy.
so
He's a
he's a
raccoon."
raccoon.
Yeah.
Biscuit needs to get his car fixed, so we see him kind of drive by Chula's house,
Oh, she's pissed.
with the bumper hanging off and the windshield all cracked, and so he takes it to a shop, and he's kind of, like, advertising on the radio system that they have in town, like, "Hey, I'm selling my PS4 because I really need to get my car fixed, like, anyone who wants to buy it, let me
Like,
know."
also PS4, like, come on. The PS5 is what you want.
Right, but,
Like, that's like me
maybe.
selling a Wii.
And we have a Wii in our apartment now, and I love it, Jill.
Oh,
It's
I
the
love a Wii
best.
too. I think a Wii is gonna make a comeback, but, like,
But I
right now
probably
like,
wouldn't buy a Wii for $100 like
no,
he
like, maybe,
was
like, 40. I
advertising.
paid $40 for a Wii. If anyone has a Wii,
Yeah,
$40, I'll buy it. I'll buy it.
yeah. And so Bonnie is at the other end of one of these transmitter radios, and she, calls into him and was like, "Hey, like, what happened to your truck? What's going on?" And he's like, "Oh, well, I was taking it off-roading and ran into some trouble, but I'm okay." And like the black Billy Jack's okay, Maya's okay. And he's like, "Whoa, record scratch. Maya's in town?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh no, I just said the wrong thing." And so we kinda the only thing
What a
well
horrible, like, excuse too. Just like, "Oh, no, I said the wrong thing." Like, why would you ever bring up this long lost person who, like, never
Yeah.
visits town? Why would she even be on your brain to bring up? That's so
Well,
funny.
Biscuit's kind of like, a silly, goofy guy, so he wasn't using his noggin in this moment.
Biscuit. I'm over Biscuit. I'm
And
over
his name is Biscuit, for
like,
Pete's sake,
I mean,
like.
yeah. Like, what do you give the dog? You can't give him biscuits, right? You can't be like, Dog, you want a biscuit?" Like, it doesn't work.
I guess treat, maybe?
Yeah, I guess.
Anyway, so Henry. Oh yeah, there's a scene with Henry and his like shipping yard people, because I think it was his shipping yard that like it happened at. So he's like,
Mm.
"Oh no, like
Yeah, he gets,
we're
like,
gonna
a
have to deal
call.
with all this."
And
Yeah.
they make it like he's in the shower, so they try to frame it like it's all steamy and shit. I don't know. And then he's like, then he confronts her, right? And then he's like all pissed off at her.
Yeah, so basically he reaches out to Maya because he knows exactly who's responsible for this explosion, and he goes to Maya and is like, "Hey, I'm going to warn you again, like you're bringing a war here, and it's the people who are close to you that end up getting hurt in these situations." And she's like,
Mhm.
"Well, you're either with me or you against me, so like what's it going to be?" And he actually says to her like, "You know what? You're actually reminding me a lot of Fisk right now." And she's
Mm,
like, "Oh, okay. Well, that kind of hurts my feelings." And he drops the line that's like, "The people who are close to you get hurt." And she responds with, "And who is that exactly?" So it's kind of like, yeah, she's not that wrong, because she's not really been reconnecting with anyone in town. Her grandma doesn't even want to
I
see
mean,
her.
biscuit's the closest thing.
Right. And it's like, I don't think she even cares that much for Biscuit, because
No,
she's just
she doesn't.
using him.
Right, exactly.
Um,
Um,
but we do see a text from Bonnie to Maya where she says, "Hey, you're back in town. Like, why wouldn't you tell me?" And so there's probably going to definitely, we're going to come to head with
I mean,
that
I'd
whole
hope so.
situation.
If they don't see each other, that'd be freaking wild.
Right.
Yeah.
And then so we end this episode with Echo kind of taking out her anger on the swing set that they played on as kids. And as she's doing this, we kind of flash back between Chapa and Lohawk. And then we are introduced to a new face right as the credits roll. And it's a woman who's actually in black and white. So we might get some flashback to some black and
Yeah.
white sequences.
Yeah, which I assume is the
Um,
next episode because, that's
yeah.
how the pattern's been going, and it's funny because a lot of people are watching this probably like, "It's this, it's that," like and again, I have to reiterate, we're watching this weekly, so we don't know where it's gonna go to, but this one made me a
Hmm.
little less excited about the series in a whole, just because I just
Hmm.
don't think it like, this episode is never gonna be like, "Oh my god, did you see that episode of Echo last night?" Like, if this was airing weekly. That's
Right.
probably why they did drop these all at once because I think we're starting to see kind of that elongated movie feel. But
Mhm.
all in all, like, there was something bad about this episode where I was like, "Oh, that sucked," either. I mean, I think it was just very
Yeah.
mid. But hey,
Yeah.
mid is still better than a lot of other stuff we've seen from the MCU
Right.
as of late, so,
I'm like,
yeah.
let's think back to the last TV series we had watched, not
Yes.
counting What If season 2.
No, I mean,
Okay.
I would
This
even
is
include that. I would include What If Season 2 and Secret Invasion as 2 of the worst things I've seen in a long time, so
Wow, you're putting what if
Well,
season 2 in
no,
the same caliber as Secret
not
Invasion? 'Cause
not in the
that
same
shit was
not in the
whack.
same caliber, but like I think it was a step below like Loki.
Right. I
I
mean,
don't
the
know.
thing for me that this show really has going for it, Jill, and the driving force that makes me want to keep watching it is the fact that I just really like Echo and I find
Me
her to
too.
be such an interesting character.
I
And
agree.
I'm excited for her to grow and I want to see like where else like this could take her. Like I want to see if they tease at the end, like if she's gonna be in any like mainstream projects, if she's gonna be introduced to any other characters, if
Absolutely.
her and Daredevil find a way to communicate to each
I
other.
think that's the big one where I'm like, I think she might be in Daredevil. That's like my
Mhm.
my theory because I don't
What's it
see her
called?
being
Reborn?
born again.
Born Again.
Which
I
like
keep saying Reborn.
reborn is so much better than born again.
Okay. Thank
So
you.
like you're yeah like
Marvel,
I don't know
hire me.
more yeah
I'm
well
available.
yeah yeah anyway that was Echo season. I mean anything else about Echo episode 2?
Um, yeah,
Mm,
I'm really I'll talk about the things that I like about it because obviously we can agree that it's pretty mid, but I really like this. I really like the characters. I really like the
the dog.
culture and I want to see more Billy Jack, but not if it
Yeah,
means that he's
it's
getting
really
hurt.
yeah, like when he was like, "Oh, Billy Jack, are you okay?" I was like, "Oh, fuck no, don't." And then they didn't do it.
Yeah,
I
no,
was
no,
really
no.
worried. I was like, "Oh no, 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 no,"
Yeah.
because I can't
And
handle that.
And I'm really excited to see like what these actual powers are going to be like for Echo because part
Mhm.
of me really wants her to stay just like a normal human being, like a
Right.
Black Widow esque
Mhm.
type of person that's just
Or
really
yeah.
advanced in hand to hand combat.
Mhm. Yeah,
Or
maybe
if
make
it's
like the weapon the thing that
yeah,
enhances it. Kind of like if she does get a
yeah,
new leg, maybe it has an extra little like maybe there's some machinery, kind of like an
a
Iron Man thing that
feature.
helps. Yeah,
Yeah.
but like I don't. I kind of like yeah, you're right. Like the more grounded, like oh, you're just a really good fighter, rather than oh,
Mhm.
you've got superpowers. So
Mhm.
I don't know. Even
So
Tony
we'll
Stark was like
see
that.
where this because I can't even tell even from the flashbacks like what the power actually is. Like, is it just something that makes you like gain superhuman strength for like a short period of time, or
Mm.
is it going to unlock other things for her? Like,
Or maybe it's like
I'm
it's just a spiritual thing where it like just connects her and puts her in that mind space type thing. Like it's like an avatar
mm,
state type thing. Did you watch Avatar?
mm. Oh, did I watch Avatar?
Listen,
The
listen,
Last Airbender,
big
correct?
news. Yes, I mean they're all great,
Okay.
but yes, yeah, you should watch the movies Avatar and Avatar: The Way of
Yeah, I
Water as
will
well. But
eventually.
we will. I will sit down and make sure you do that because if you look at your phone or look away, I will rewind it and make you watch it again.
Okay.
But no, I'm kidding. But I realized something for the first time talking to our good friend Zach, my brother Zach. He's never
Yeah.
seen Avatar: The Last Airbender,
Zach, what? That's
right?
so
Isn't that
off-brand.
wild?
He would love Avatar: The
I
Last
know, and he
Airbender.
played a whole Survivor season themed around it on his in the orgs in the online reality games, and didn't hasn't really watched. I mean, he's probably watched episodes here and there, but like he
Oh
wasn't an
my
Avatar watcher,
god.
which surprised me. He just feels like an Avatar watcher. But yeah, it's like the Avatar state, I think, where like Echo can kind of tap in, and that'd be really
Mm,
cool. Like, what if she's an
yeah.
air? Nope, I'm not gonna go there. What if she's
An
like an airbender though? It's
airbender?
so cool. I
She's
would love to.
Aang?
I would like to see Alakwa Cox play like an Avatar in like if they did a live action thing.
Alakwa?
Alakwa Cox.
Oh
Yeah,
my god, that's such a pretty
that's a
name.
hard but beautiful name to say. Yeah, Alakwa Cox.
I was because I saw it in the opening credits and I was like, I wonder how you pronounce that.
Mhm.
Alakwa. I love it.
Yeah, it's like yeah, it's like the Backyardigans Uniqua. I'm like, yeah,
Oh,
you just got
Uniqua.
yeah, like
Yeah,
you just
yeah,
got
yeah,
it
yeah, yeah.
going for you. Like you're badass. You're yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, like all of Ariel's sisters, Aquata, Adrena, Adela. I was like, yeah, like they're just cool
Mm.
names. Yeah,
Mhm.
maybe I'll name my kid Alakwa. I don't know. If I ever
Alakwa.
that's assuming I'll have a kid anytime soon.
Anyway.
Adoption's a thing. Anyway, so thanks for watching. That's our season 1, I guess only season, episode 2 review. Next week we're taking a break from Echo. We're gonna have trivia for you finally. Tato and Stacy, it's been long anticipated. They will be playing. Kelsey, I just gotta ask you, who you got?
Yes. Oh god. You know, Tato has a lot of like raw. He just has this like ability, I think, kind of
He's a
just to
raw
go
potato.
in. He's a raw potato. He's uncooked. He just like I don't know. I could be wrong, but I feel like every time we've seen him, it doesn't feel like he ever like sits down and studies. Like I genuinely think that he just knows a lot because he loves the MCU and he loves these movies and he just
Mhm.
like has seen them a lot, so
Just
he can
locked
just
in. Yeah.
know. He just knows the information. But Stacy, on the other hand, I know is a studier, and I know that she sits down and like really like puts the work in behind it, and like that was the thing that was the reason why I lost the match against Stacy. So I know that they both have a different, strategy going into this, unless, if like Tato really like sat down and like studied, it could go his way, but I know that Stacy is a tough competitor, so long story short, Dale, I have no idea.
Yeah, after all that.
Do you have someone or
No, I mean, I don't like to name favorites. I know if I don't say
okay, but
Stacey, she'll
but
come
you
and
were going to
kill
make
me.
me do it?
No, well, because you are a competitor in the league, so like, or you were like, you got like a little bit more insight in that way, where I don't. Like, I don't know. I don't have a knowledge base, so it's like
Mm,
hard for me to agree or disagree. But I do think Tato is riding more momentum. I would say because even Stacey's victory against you is very much like, okay, she got the victory, and then she was like, I did it. But now I don't know if
yeah.
she's like still going that extra mile of like, now I got to keep doing it. Whereas Tato is hungrier, I think, because he hasn't gotten it yet. So I think Tato's going
Yeah.
to come into the match a little bit more aggressive. But I also think
Mm,
Stacy, just because of her experience playing a title match and just being in this league for 2 whole years, I think is going to give her a slight edge. It's like
mhm,
Tom Brady versus Patrick Mahomes. Everyone thought
mm,
Patrick, like there's a few Super Bowls ago, like everyone thought Patrick Mahomes was a hot, fresh new thing. He was hungry for it, and he had proven himself. He just hadn't proven himself against the GOAT. And then when the GOAT played, it was like, no, he still didn't beat Tom Brady. Tom Brady still won that match, but Patrick Mahomes has
mhm.
still, now that Tom Brady's retired, has really gone on to like really fight hard. And I guess you're more of the Tom Brady because you've kind of retired in a way after a big victory and
Please, I don't
losing
wanna be
nearly.
compared to Tom
Right,
Brady.
but
I fucking
you're
hate
more like
that
the
guy.
You're more like the Peyton Manning. Like you got your
Okay,
big win
okay.
and you held on to
Thank
it.
you.
Now like Tom Brady's the GOAT, but like I think Stacey's a Patriots fan, so like I think it's safe to say like she's like the
Okay, fine.
Brady. She's
She
the
can
Brady
be
right
Tom
now.
Brady.
Yeah, because she's just won so many matches too. She's played way more matches than you even. Like she's won, I think
Yeah,
she's like 7-1 or 6-1. So like that's the
yeah,
thing is she's like won time and time again to where it's like sometimes it just takes experience and like Mahomes versus Brady. Mahomes is the better athlete, but Brady just had the experience and got a one up on him. Whereas now Brady's retired, Mahomes can flourish and he's still in the playoffs as we're speaking. Actually, no, by now we know what the Chiefs and Bills game happened. It happened last night, but we don't know yet because we're recording this Sunday afternoon. So we don't know if Mahomes is still in the playoffs or not right now. But yeah, it kind of reminds me of that, where Tato's the Mahomes. I think a lot of people are looking at him as like this fresh, new, like hungry, competitive, athletic person. Athletic in this terms of trivia, but then Stacey's
mhm,
just like you can't underestimate her because she has had so much experience and she is
yeah,
like the goat right now in the league. If you're not in that conversation as well, because you're retired, it's hard. You're like
yeah,
1A 1B in terms of goat and goatee,
yeah.
the goat and the goatess or whatever. I don't know, but it is going to be very interesting to see
I love
who
that.
comes out on top. Also, because we don't know if Stacey's bringing the Dark Phoenix, if she's bringing the Feisty Phoenix, if she's just playing as Stacy, we don't know because she played just as
Mhm,
Stacy against you. And maybe if she was a Dark Phoenix, does that get to her head a little bit more? We don't know. Whereas Tato doesn't really
mhm,
play that kind of mind game. He just comes in as Tato, which I think is good
mhm.
too for him. Where she has to also balance the character aspect of it. So I think this is going to be a really even match. I think this is even more even than you and her. Just
Yeah,
because I feel like with you and her, you hadn't played in so long, and she was just consistently playing. Now Stacey's hasn't played in a while. Tato hasn't played since the free for all. Like they've both had like a long time off, which I think is
yeah.
going to be really interesting. So
And, I feel like as long as Tato doesn't get cocky and rests on his laurels, I think that it could be a really good match.
there you go. All right. So Kelsey, where can they find you on the internet? Otherwise,
You can find me wrapped up in this blanket like a little burrito. You
you actually look more like an omelet
I actually yeah, you're right because my
or
blanket
taco.
is yellow.
Yeah.
Honestly, when I
I
had
think
it
because
over
of
my
the
head
blob effect, not it's more omelet than taco. But
right, or croissant almost because, like, my head is, like, kind of
I feel like croissant's
anyway.
more like a golden brown, though. I think you're still more yellow
Right, right, right. And also, like, at some point during this podcast, I looked at myself because it was, like, over my head, and I reminded myself as one of the people from Among Us in, like, the little, like,
Yeah.
yellow suit or something.
Mhm.
Anyway, but you can find me on the internet, um, on Instagram, I'm at Kelsey A. Kilpatrick, and then on TikTok, I'm at Kelsey A. Kilp. So no atric, just the KILP.
No Atrix.
No atrics. And you can also find me on Letterbox at Kelsey A. Kilp as
Mhm.
well. It's the
Yes.
same exact thing as my TikTok.
Yep. And you can also find us here on video at Dill Pickle Movie Network. A lot of great other shows happening. The Dill Pickle Podcast is where you can find all my other podcast stuff. I just dropped my first episode of wait, Dill's never seen that, where I talked about Something Like It Hot, which is a film I hadn't seen, shockingly, by one of my favorite directors, Billy Wilder. Next episode I'll be doing is The Parent Trap, because I've never seen that, and everyone goes, "You've never seen The Parent Trap?" Yeah, just like
With
Kelsey did right
Lindsay
now.
Lohan?
Yes, with Lindsay Lohan. Yep.
Wow, can't wait for that one.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. It's like so many movies where people are like, "You've never seen that?" So I'm gonna like pull a bunch of you too. I'm gonna like ask you, I'll ask Zach, I'll ask for like all your favorite movies and stuff, and see which ones I haven't seen, and see
Okay.
which ones you guys have the biggest reactions to. So I started that. Still got the Sight and Sound podcast going on over there. Dylan underscore Randazzo at Twitter. Yes, it's Twitter. It's not X. I will not abide. Dylan Randazzo 417 at TikTok, and the Dill Pickle Movie Network TikTok is really kicking off. It's really getting some good views lately. I posted my top 25 of the decade so far, and I posted a reaction to the Traders reveal on the Traders, and that got a lot of views. So, like, yeah, good stuff. All these hosts will be on there at some point soon. I'm gonna try to really push that they make more of them. It's you too, Kels. You got to make some more. But
Okay.
you got to hit a quota. No, I'm kidding. I don't care. But yeah, this is
Uh,
fun. There wasn't a lot to talk about with this episode in particular, but I'm hoping next episode's great. So in 2 weeks we'll be back with more Echo. But until then, we'll see you for Marvel trivia next week, and we hope you stay warm, stay safe out there, and go Chiefs, go Bills. We don't know who won last night. You do, because you're watching this a day later. I'm very excited to see who it is, and I hope the
Go
Lions also won.
Chiefs.
Go Chiefs. Yes, go Taylor Swift. Woo woo.